All right, good evening. Let me call to order this meeting of the City of Bloomington Plan Commission for September 8th, 2025. Let me start by giving just a quick preview of our agenda this evening. There are several petitions that remain tabled that will not be heard tonight. SP 24-22, which is Cutters Kirkwood 123 LLC. Also ZO 34-23, those text amendments relating to sign standards. ZO 01-25, which are text amendments related to UDO regarding affordable housing incentives. And SP 28-25, which is petition from Built LLC, property at 1320 South Rogers Street. Those all remain continued, or tabled, excuse me, and will not be heard tonight. The three petitions we will hear this evening are ZO 20-25, as amended by the council. This is amendments to the UDO tables for a few different areas. ZO 22-25, also council amended changes to the UDO use table regarding vehicle wash. And then finally, ZO 03-25, which are text amendments to the UDO regarding residential rooming house, which we heard at the last meeting as well. So, so those three petitions will get hearings tonight. We'll start with our little bit of housekeeping before we get into those petitions, but let's start just by calling the roll.
Holmes.
Here.
Kinsey.
Here.
Stossberg.
Here.
Whistler.
Here. All right, we do have a quorum, but we have one commissioner joining us remotely, which means we'll have to do a roll call vote on anything we take action on tonight. We'll need to do a full roll call vote. And just to remind everyone, we do need 5 yes votes on any motion. It's not a majority of those who are here; it's a majority of all voting members. So. Little margin for error tonight in the actions that we take. Next up, we will have some minutes to be approved. I believe we have received minutes from the August 11th meeting now, although they did come a little bit late, so I'm not sure if everyone's had a chance to review those. Are there any questions or corrections to those minutes? Commissioner Stossberg.
Thank you. I would just really appreciate if the minutes could make a note of the dissenting votes. I wasn't here for the last meeting, but there were several votes that were not unanimous, and so it was one of those moments where I was like, I want to be reminded of who voted no on these things. So I know that the clerk does that for council meetings, like anybody who votes no or abstains, they make a special note of those. So I don't know if that can be done in these minutes, but I feel like that information is notable.
Did you want us to amend the minutes that are coming for you tonight to show those dissenting votes, or was that a comment just for future minutes?
Certainly for future minutes. And I mean, I think that it's probably an important part of public record. So I think probably in terms of tonight's, it would be beneficial
Yeah, so if you want
generally for
to
the
vote
public
to
record.
continue that, we can amend those minutes and then bring you forward next week, or next
Okay.
month, I mean.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry, would you like to make a motion to continue the minutes till our next meeting?
Sure, I'll move to postpone approval of the minutes until the October meeting.
All right, is there a second for that? Okay. Any other discussion, any other comments or questions about the minutes? All right, let's call the roll on the motion to continue the August 11th minutes till our next meeting.
Korodke. Holmes,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Stossberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Burrell.
All right, so that motion carries. The minutes are continued to our next meeting. Are there any reports, resolutions, or communications from commissioners tonight? All right, seeing none. Any from staff?
Nothing from staff, no.
All right, well then I guess we are ready to get into our petitions. The first one is ZO 20-25. Looks like we are lucky enough to have Eric Grulich to present each of these tonight.
Thank you. So these next two petitions are a series of use table amendments that the Planning Commission heard that were then forwarded on to the Common Council. As it was going to the council, there were some last-minute adjustments to the actual packet and exhibits that the council heard in terms of the specific exhibits that were attached to each ordinance. So those ordinance amendments were modified by the council. So because that was modified in some regard, it has to come back to the Planning Commission. There was no change to the actual ordinance itself. So these are both for use table amendments, so that the language and all of the changes to the use table stayed the same. It was just the exhibits that were in the packet that were amended. So as I mentioned, because the council did amend what went to them, it does have to come back to the Planning Commission for ratification.
So just to clarify, the table that we approved here is the same as the table that the council approved. There's no changes as to which district fraternity, sorority, or mixed-use housing are allowed in.
Correct. Yeah, so for both of those, for the first one, ZO 2025, that dealt with fraternity and sorority uses and vehicle fleet operations. The exhibits were modified in the attachments that went to the council, and then likewise for the second one, for the vehicle wash, those exhibits got transposed in the packets, and so those were modified through an amendment, and those have to come back. So the ordinance and all the language, the table, everything stayed the same. It was just the exhibits that got modified.
Okay, but those exhibits were not part of what was adopted into law.
Correct. Right. It was just what was presented to the council. So because that happened at the council meeting, there was an amendment at the council meeting. For that, it had to come back to us.
So, I'm sorry, so there was an amendment made at the council meeting? Yes, we have a council member here, perhaps.
So with regard to this first one, if you guys recall, I'm actually the one that motioned this during the Plan Commission meeting, that in our packet tonight, it has it crossed out, number 10, fraternity or sorority house, and then everything else renumbered, because we had to change the use table by taking out the asterisk, right? Because the asterisk didn't track back to anything, any content in the UDO, but when it was before us in Plan Commission, that heading, fraternity or sorority house, was still there with nothing underneath it. So I made the motion at the time to say, hey, let's take that out, let's renumber the other things, right? Do you remember that? Well, that renumbering did not translate to the council documents. So then at the council level, I had to make that amendment again to modify that document. So in terms of like what we at Plan Commission approved, it's like all the same. But in terms of what was given, what was presented in the packet at council, it was actually different from what Plan Commission
So
approved.
this was basically just correcting.
It's a correction. It's
correcting
like
a scrivener's error.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And that's and you said that's the case for both.
No, that's the case for the first one. On the second one, there was just where it was supposed to have the attachment that was the table with like the part of the allowed use table that was changing. It was just a different part of the allowed use table.
Okay.
So it was just the wrong like attachment, and so but then we had to specifically amend it to put the right attachment in. So it was just another kind of similar like these things happen kind of moments.
All right.
Yeah.
Are there any questions from commissioners on ZO 20-25? Is there any public comment on ZO 20-25? If you're here in the chambers and you'd like to make comment, just step right up to the podium and state your name for the record. If you're joining us online, click the reactions button on your Zoom app and then raise your hand. or you can also send a chat message to the meeting host, and we'll recognize you when it is your turn to speak.
I am not seeing anybody on Zoom.
All right, last call for public comment on ZO 20-25. All right, back to the commission for any final discussion or for a motion.
I'll make a motion to, I guess, amend Title 20 of the Bloomington Municipal Code for fraternity and sorority house, artist studio workshop, vehicle fleet operations, no, large and small, correct? Am I reading that right?
Yeah, I think the motion that we need here is simply to...
Oh, it's just to approve ZO-20-25.
So I'm sorry, so just to clarify, your motion is just that we approve ordinance 2025-26 as amended by the council. Is that,
Yes.
all right, is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, let's call the roll on that motion.
Yes?
Holmes,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Stossberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Seaboard.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. We're on now to ZO 22-25. Eric, anything else to add on this one, or?
No, again,
Covered all.
just to reiterate what was already said, this was just correcting exhibits that were in the packet.
All right, any discussion or questions from commissioners? Any public comment on ZO 22-25? Are there any online commenters?
I'm not seeing anybody online.
Okay, this is last call for public comment on ZO 22-25. All right, we are back to the commission then for any final discussion or for a motion.
Of ZO 20-22-25.
Second.
All right, any final comments? All right, let's call the roll on the motion to adopt ZO 22-25.
Holmes,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Stossberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Kowalski.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. We are on now to ZO-03-25. And again, we have Eric Grulich. Take it away.
Thank you. Eric Grulich, Development Services Manager. So this is a continual discussion. This is the third hearing for this particular amendment to the use table for the Unified Development Ordinance. So this is following up on a council resolution that was issued last year, directing the Plan Commission to prepare a proposal consistent with several aspects that were included in their resolution to amend the Unified Development Ordinance to allow for a use to be known as single-room occupancy. There were several items in the council resolution that were the Plan Commission was urged to look into and consider. One of those was distinguishing between existing use called residential rooming house and this proposed use, single room occupancy. The council directed Plan Commission to look at allowing SROs as a permitted use in multiple zoning districts. They requested to look at requiring or not requiring owner occupancy for SROs, as this was an allowance within the current UDO for the use residential rooming house. So the council wanted the Plan Commission to look at removing that particular element. They directed the Plan Commission to look at allowing SROs into mixed-use buildings and other housing types, and also to allow 2 people per SRO. So as I mentioned, this is the 3rd hearing for this particular proposal. So the Plan Commission and staff has spent a lot of time discussing this particular element in this petition. We've certainly acknowledged a lot of complexities with this proposal in terms of allowing this use. The current UDO does allow for the use residential rooming house in a lot of zoning districts. It's a use that's allowed in the multifamily districts with an owner occupancy requirement. It's allowed in the mixed use districts now, but it's not allowed in the single family districts. So one of the intentions with the council resolution was to expand the districts where this use is allowed within, and certainly, as we've acknowledged in a lot of previous discussions, the challenges that we've encountered with this were how to try to accomplish what the resolution was intending in terms of providing a diversity of housing options for folks, ideally trying to make this more affordable by lessening the amount of burden that a person has with a rent. So single room occupancies are a situation where somebody just rents the bedroom and makes use of general common areas within the building. So kitchens, living areas, bathrooms, those are all common area, and then a person just rents a bedroom. So in a lot of situations, that presents an opportunity where rent is cheaper for that person. However, we cannot rent control structures or rent within buildings. And so that particular element, although is typically associated with this by default, it's not something that we can regulate within the UDO itself. So when this was heard in July, we brought forward a petition that allowed for a certain number of bedrooms within the R1 and R2 district, allowing 3 bedrooms. We were proposing to allow 5 bedrooms in the R3 and R4 districts. So the R3 and R4 are the districts where you typically have smaller lot sizes. They're more central to the downtown. And then so we had a definition of family that was a little bit confusing that we altered later. And then we had some language regarding prohibiting certain bathroom elements within bedrooms. So we heard a lot of comments in the July hearing that we revised coming forward to the August hearing. So in August last month, we modified the number of bedrooms that were being proposed to allow 5 in all districts. We modified the number of adults per bedroom to make that 2, which was in keeping with the resolution. And then we also included language requiring owner occupancy and that the owner of the property had to be a registered nonprofit. So at the August hearing, we heard a lot of comments regarding those proposals. Certainly a lot of folks, both on the Plan Commission and the community, have voiced some opinions on some of those regards. And so while a lot of those elements were deemed to be favorable, we also acknowledge that there would be certain challenges, specifically requiring owner occupancy and that the owner of a property be a nonprofit. In regards to the owner being, they have to live there. Certainly we acknowledge that you could place any of the particular owners on a deed for that property, and they would be living there. So, as we've mentioned, one of the challenges here is how to provide legislation that is in keeping with the council ordinance that also doesn't just enable higher degree of occupancies for situations that we were not trying to solve for. So we're trying to provide missing housing for members of the community and not necessarily provide more student rental opportunities or increase occupancy for those uses. And so that's been one of the challenges that we've been trying to solve for. And so what we're bringing forward tonight is what the department feels is kind of the best attempt to accomplish the goals of the resolution while trying to minimize some of the impacts that we've been concerned with, and also kind of balancing some of the legal challenges that we have to make sure to be attentive to, and not get too deep into. So for instance, requiring the owner of the property to be a nonprofit, the legal department has advised us that would be very challenging to defend in court, and so we've removed that particular element. In regards to the number of bedrooms or rooms per SRO, we are proposing a maximum of 3 rooms per SRO, and we are keeping the proposed number of adults per room at 2. So we've tried to address a lot of, or all of the areas in the resolution that the council directed us to look at. And one of the other changes for what you're seeing tonight versus what was heard in August, there was a provision that allowed for a waiver to be granted from one of the proposed use-specific requirements that dealt with the person coming or the entity coming forward for the SRR could not have any notices of violation for the past 3 years. We had previously included a provision for a waiver from that requirement. However, we weren't really able to come up with really good legally defensible waiver criteria that we could evaluate that on. So we didn't want to just have a waiver that was based on subjective requirements. We wanted to have a very well-established criteria for that. So that's something that we could certainly introduce at a later time as part of any amendments to the text within the UDO. It does not require a change to the use table. So that's certainly something we can address at a later time if we feel that's appropriate for the SROs, or even if that's something that gets addressed with the discussions that we're having for middle housing discussions that are happening later this year. So we do not have a requirement or an allowance within the current legislation for a waiver from that notice of violation stipulation or prohibition. So as I mentioned, what we're bringing forward tries to accomplish a lot of the goals within the resolution, trying to check off all of the boxes within there. We do still have the language in there requiring the owner to live on the property. So that was something that we did hear from a lot of members of the public, as well as members of the Planning Commission, that they felt like that aspect would help minimize, the likelihood that these would just be used for student rentals. Certainly, as I mentioned, an owner of the property could be placed on the deed. It does obviously require a lot more work from a legal perspective to do that. And so we do acknowledge that, but that was kind of the best approach to try to limit adverse impacts with this use. And so we do still have a lot of the other changes in terms of renaming of the residential rooming house within the UDO, changes within that parking standards that reference that other use, some minor modification to the definition of residential rooming house to make that more in line with other definitions of single room occupancy uses in other communities, where it references specifically that a person is just renting a room and must share other common facilities, including kitchen, bathroom, and common area. And so with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission forward this petition to the Common Council with a favorable recommendation. And it's also important to note that the council did extend the resolution at their last hearing, I think in July, granting us another 60 days. And so that 60 days does expire before the next Planning Commission session. So it is extremely important that the Planning Commission does take action on this tonight and forward this on with a recommendation. And as I mentioned, we are recommending a positive recommendation to the council. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions from commissioners? Commissioner Stossberg.
When I reviewed the meeting minutes, I had noticed that Mr. Seaboard had made a motion to change how the parking maximum was listed to say, instead of per guest room, per bedroom, and that's not reflected in here, but that was a motion that actually passed at the Plan Commission before this petition was continued to this hearing.
Yes, thank you. I apologize that I omitted that, but if you certainly want to include that again tonight with the recommendation, that would be very helpful, just to reiterate that same language.
So does that need to have like a separate motion? And then, Mr. Seaboard, do you want to do that again? Because
If I
that
recall,
was
did
your,
we took that as a friendly amendment last time, I believe, right? Or did we actually
there
take
was
a
an
vote?
actual vote on
Was there
it.
a vote on it?
According to the minutes,
All
there
right,
was
so
an
that's
actual
in the
vote on
record
it.
then already?
Yeah.
Not much we need to do on that, probably. Just make sure it gets updated.
Yeah, so like, as I mentioned, certainly it'd be very helpful just to include that. There might be other conditions of approval, so we would just fold that in with any other conditions of approval that the Planning Commission wanted to send along.
Okay. And then I have one more, too. In the definition of single-room occupancy, you call it a residential facility, and facility brings to mind some sort of group housing or like a special, something. And I'm wondering if that could potentially be changed to something like a dwelling or dwelling unit or something that doesn't bring to mind such a, thank you, institutional kind of.
Yeah, so it's a little bit challenging here because this use, while present, oftentimes in our discussions, they've been focused solely on their presence in single-family neighborhoods. There are situations in other buildings where you can have more than one kitchen. So the definition of dwelling unit says a single unit with a kitchen. These are an exception from that. So that's why we did not use the word dwelling unit specifically, because the definition of dwelling unit says a single kitchen.
Okay, is there something else besides facility?
Yeah, I certainly recognize the sensitivity maybe of that word. We're open to suggestions. Certainly you can include that as a condition of approval to change that aspect.
Does anybody have any suggestions for something that's less institutional than facility at this moment?
Where exactly is the language we're talking about?
It's in the definition of single-room occupancy. In our packet, it's on page 36. Just says a residential facility where individuals rent individual rooms and then share common facilities.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Residence?
Yeah.
Residence?
Accommodation.
A residential residence.
Or just a residence instead of a residential.
No, could we just say a residence?
A residence.
A residence where
Where
individuals.
individuals rent.
Residential buildings?
Does staff have any
Building, could maybe
comment
work?
on that suggestion?
Eric, do you see any conflicts with using the word residence or residential building? Or
I
residential
mean,
property?
I think either of those certainly could be fine, a residence or a residential building. Certainly, building would probably be the best one.
Someone like to make a motion to amend that as such?
I'll move to change the word facility to building in the definition of single-room occupancy on page 36 of our packet.
All right, is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Any public comment on this amendment?
If there is anybody online that would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody online.
All right, we're back to...
No, I'm sorry, WB.
Hi, I'm sorry, I just had a comment to the proposal, not to the amendment.
All right, we'll have another opportunity for public comment on the entire petition after this. All right, if there's no other comments on the amendment specifically, let's call the roll on the amendment to change facility to building.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Stossberg,
Yes.
Whistler,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Korodke,
Yes.
Holmes.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. We are then back to the original petition. Any other questions from commissioners? Yeah, go ahead.
Just, and this may have been answered, so the definition saying that it has shared facilities such as kitchen, bedroom, that's enough to make those requirements?
Yes, exactly. So that's why, so in some definitions, you would say may include, so we change, I change that to such as to specifically make those requirements for those elements, yeah.
Okay, so someone who did a kitchen but didn't have shared baths would be out of compliance?
As long as there is a shared bathroom. So one of the concerns was that, if you wanted to have a sink in a residential unit, that could be an amenity that would be allowed as long as there is still a shared bathroom.
Okay.
So the such as requires those elements. It doesn't necessarily prohibit, a small bathroom within an individual bedroom, but it does require that element within the building as a whole as well.
Okay, so they could each have like an ensuite bathroom, as long as there's at least one shared bathroom?
Correct. That was the intention, yes. Certainly, if you feel like there's other language that might be stronger or modification of that, you can certainly.
Did previous versions of it require that or prohibit bathrooms in the suites?
Yeah, so in the original version that came to the Plan Commission in July, there was language in there that prohibited bedrooms from having a bathroom attached to it in any capacity whatsoever. So we did feel like that. Some members of the public and Plan Commission felt that might be a little harsh, and some basic private care bathroom could be appropriate, and so that's why we removed that part and modified the definition.
Okay. Okay, another question, the 3 rooms, that does not include the owner's room, I take it, so the owner has?
It would be 3 rooms regardless of, the owner, so that would just, it's up to them, which room they stay in or sleep in or whatever, but that would allow for that.
So one of those 3 would be the owner's room?
Yes.
In the residential home?
Yes.
Okay.
In the single-family districts, yes.
The single family, okay. And then the last one, the not married couples, so that was removed. Was that something legal said had to be removed because of this?
Well, so that's where the occupancy of 2 people per room kind of allows that configuration, whatever that might look like. And so that was one of the reasons why we went back to the 2 people per room rather than the 1, so that we didn't have to deal with defining a family or defining married people or whatever that might look like. Just allowing 2 people per room, and this does not regulate children. So it'd be those 2 people and any children.
Okay, what I'm getting at with those questions, so the 2 people per room and the ensuite bathroom makes it attractive to convert some of the single family to, frankly, rental housing for student occupancy, and it would be at high market value, right? It's not going to do anything for affordable housing to do that. It may not happen very much, but those things, I think those were the previous requirement that if you're going to have 2, they need to be in a family unit. And is family not defined anywhere else in the ordinance?
So family, we did not modify the definition of family for this use. There is a definition of family, but rooming houses are exempt from that. So that's why it's important to clarify that element specifically within these use-specific restrictions.
Okay. I like it in general. We've removed the number of restrictions for residential rooming houses for multifamily. That was, I think, an issue that's gone here. I think this is going to make it attractive to convert single-family residential into rental housing. For my part, I would want to restore the requirement that if you're going to have 2, they're family, they're related to each other in some way. And I would restrict the ensuite bathrooms. I'd say, no, don't have those, because you're going to get into a situation where you're just going to want to make them back into high dollar, not affordable housing units. So it's just a comment, I think. So it's enough of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Seaboard.
Yes, just following up on, so the maximum number of rooms, so in 12A, it just says maximum number of rooms, and it says maximum number of 3 rooms are allowed. I'm assuming we're talking about just bedrooms, and that would be obvious to staff and petitioners, but just, is it worth defining, or will that be clear for administering if approved?
Yeah, so we actually did have the word bedrooms in there, but it was suggested to just modify that to say rooms where people are sleeping. So that would be clear to staff as we are reviewing these. You know, all portions of a house have to be identified, you know, with a use, whether those are a living room, it's a kitchen, it's a bathroom, a sleeping room. So that would be clear certainly to us that we would be looking at where are the rooms that people are sleeping in to make sure that there aren't more than 3.
So would it be helpful then to say 3 rooms where people sleep? Or is that, so right now it just says 3 rooms, unless it's defined somewhere else?
It's not defined anywhere else, so it would just kind of be an inherent characteristic of that. You know, if you felt like it might make it clearer to say 3 sleeping rooms, you can certainly propose a condition of approval.
Okay, so hypothetically, there's a house that has 4 what might be bedrooms, but people just can't sleep in one of those rooms if it was converted to a...
Yeah, so if there was a situation like that, and we see those kind of often, where somebody might label something as a study or something similar to that, then we'll require a zoning commitment that says only 3 rooms are to be allowed for, you know, dwelling purposes or sleeping purposes. So it's just kind of something we handle on a case-by-case basis based on what a floor plan is.
Okay. And then I guess hypothetically, if I owned a home that wanted to do this, one of those rooms was a master room, odds are I'm going to want to keep that master room if I'm the owner and required to live in them. I guess I wouldn't have to, but that's just, anyway, I guess that's a random comment. Never mind.
Any other questions from commissioners? All right, seeing none, we will go then to public comment on ZO03-25. Again, if you're here in the chambers and you'd like to make comment, just step up to the podium, state your name for the record. You'll have up to 5 minutes to make your comments. If you're joining us online, just click on that reactions button and raise your virtual hand, and we'll recognize you when it is your turn to speak.
WB, you should be able to speak now.
Hi there. Yes. Okay, let's see.
And if you could state your name for the record, please.
Not sure if you're still there, but we're unable to hear you here in the chambers.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay, sorry. Yes, my name is Wendy Brisht. Wait, can you still hear me? Yes, okay, sorry, my phone's doing some strange things. I've been involved in this situation for a while. I've watched the history from '62 onwards. I used to work for a woman who owned student housing. I saw what happened when the upzoning previously, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and what happened to my neighborhood and how long it took to recover after Mayor Allison put zoning back in place. I've also watched in California what happened with this very same idea of owner occupancy, which almost never happens. It's very easy to get around. I don't exactly know how you're going to enforce it. I mean, I live, you know, I own a house in Bloomington. I could easily just live in California and say I sleep in the sunroom, and not live in. I think it's important that everybody knows that this is basically what's already being done. Certainly in all the houses that I know, if you look up on Zillow, the rentals say that Chickering owns. I mean, they're buying up larger houses like crazy, but even, but every bedroom, every person that's allowed in brings the price up. Their 5 bedrooms are commanding $8,100 now. Their 4 bedrooms are commanding $6,400. And many of those houses are quite small. The 5-bedroom houses are between 1,800 and 2,200 square feet. So, and they do rent by the bedroom. So this is already happening. What this seems like to me as a resident, and seeing even some families moving back in finally with children, which is great, is that you are basically going to be doubling occupancy, and it's going to be students, because these are $1,500. It's not that they're going to just cut that in half. Rental investors are going to get as much as they can, and it's going to be students anywhere within walking distance, because that is prime real estate, and it is very, very valuable. And there's a voracious student rental market there. They rent typically 2, sometimes 3 years in advance. And I just think you really need to know what you're doing here, because it's very difficult to enforce. In California, we've seen it to be impossible to enforce owner occupancy. What happens when that owner might be there for a year? They might move away. They just might leave a room open and say they live there and get some mail there. I don't see how you can possibly do that. That is what has happened in California. We've seen relatively older, less expensive rentals. I have a good friend, in fact, he now lives here in California, who was basically kicked out of his house. He was paying $700 a month for an older house, a bedroom in an older house. That was taken over. It was converted into many bedrooms, but with more. What basically happened was they just kept one room clear for 2 years, which is all they had to do, or one space. It doesn't matter. It doesn't seem to matter in your petition what space it is. So I really caution you to be serious about this, because it's going to be difficult to enforce. And I also see that parents of students might make their students the owners, and the students could live there, and then they could use it for a rooming house as well. But just we have a tipping point that we're at, and it makes everything more expensive, especially the houses that are outside the affected areas that are still real neighborhoods. The prices then go up in those because there's so few of them. There's a real dearth of housing for residents, and I just see that doubling the occupancy in our neighborhoods near the university will just make a better market for investors, and will again make that process go faster of transforming our neighborhoods into student rentals. So anyway, thank you very much for letting me comment.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Chris Sturbaum, you should be able to speak now.
Yes, Chris Sturbaum, thank you. The HUD definition of single-room occupancy is 1 adult per bedroom. It's a nationally recognized standard that promotes genuine affordable housing while limiting the risk of over-occupancy, speculation, and unintended conversion to student rentals. I ran into a woman at the market who had just sold her house recently at Elm Heights and saw it advertised for $6,000 a month rent. This happens all the time. We have 2 distinct markets in Bloomington. We have the highly competitive student market, and the students are actually increasing while people who live in Bloomington, the locals, are decreasing. So the people that are building, they know what they're doing, and they know when they're converting houses, the financial incentive is right there. Going to 1 person per bedroom is a way to respectfully let this happen where it can happen, and actually let it be affordable, because when you go after student rental, it is not affordable. The comprehensive plan also has 2 very clear guidelines for us. Page 60, existing core neighborhoods should not be the focus of the city's increasing density. And page 62, the city supports multifamily, but this should not be done at the cost of losing naturally occurring affordable home ownership and existing affordable rentals in single-family neighborhoods. The idea of allowing 2 people per bedroom is another dangerous way of opening this up. You can have a duplex And the duplex suddenly, it used to be 2 bedrooms each, now you could have 4 people in each side. And the parking, anyone who reads the parking sees, oh yeah, they said 2 per unit and half per bedroom. Those are maximums. You know what the requirement is? 0. 0 parking requirement. And I know that makes some people happy, but it wrecks a street. One of these on a street, and in a worst case scenario where you have true over-occupancy, people have cars. They really do. And even if half the people have cars, you don't have any allowance for parking. So are there any restrictions that require these to be affordable? I think the short answer to that is no. There are no restrictions to have it affordable. But if you make it 1 per bedroom, the people that take advantage of it are probably the people that you want to take advantage of it. Mm-hmm. People who own a house, but it's a little big for them, or they want someone to live in and care for them, or they happen to, have a child who's going to college and a friend of the child, and they can rent rooms out. That's where you have actual affordable housing. So we have this bifurcated market of the highly competitive market to get the student money. And then you have the market of naturally occurring affordable rentals, mom and pop rentals that are in small houses that haven't been blown up to have 5 or 6 bedrooms that aren't renting for $6,000 a month. If the goal is to have affordable housing, then don't give the ticket to profit in this other market. Let's focus on the market we care about, people who are living here, who want to own or who can live in naturally occurring affordable rentals. And of all the things that you could do, going to 1 room, 1 person per room is probably the simplest amendment you could make. I suggest that we honor the desire of the council to have an affordable project here. And the answer, if we can require affordability again, is no. But we can encourage it by simply
10 seconds.
1 occupant per bedroom. Thank you for listening. Thank you for serving.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Yes. Anna Killian, you should be able to unmute and speak now.
Hi, good evening. This is Anna Killian Hansen. I'm the Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development. I'm a little bit concerned about the language indicating room, because when we are inspecting, it is very important that we know what a bedroom is, that it has proper egress, that we have smoke detectors, there's fire safety concerns. So having somebody just sleeping in a random room within the building is not something that's gonna meld well with Title 16. I just want to raise my concern with that particular piece.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment on ZO 03-25?
Isabel Piedmont, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, thank you. I just want to mention a couple of things. Isabel Piedmont Smith, Bloomington City Council, District 1. First of all, the comp plan has a lot of environmental goals and affordability goals that are actually served by this proposal. For example, on page 63, it says encourage a wide range of housing types to provide a more diverse mix of housing opportunities and household income levels, preferably within neighborhoods and multifamily housing developments. And then if we look at the environment chapter as well, it talks about, housing in proximity to where people live, work, and play, or where people work and shop. So various things can be pulled out from the comp plan. Taken as a whole, I think it would support this proposal. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I don't think there's a lot of risk that that two students would want to live in one bedroom that has a shared bathroom or shared kitchen. It seems unlikely to me, unless they're low-income students, that they would want to share. Even people who have, a significant other that they spend the night with, they still like to have their own space. And that's what we're getting at with the 2 per bedroom, was that it makes it more affordable. It's 2 people paying that rent. Again, this is rent for 1 room. So I do think it tips towards greater affordability to allow that. And just again, I think I mentioned this before at previous meetings, that the context was also to consider possibly SROs as a way for folks who are coming out of homelessness to have a place to stay. And those are often couples who want to stay together and need each other's support. So that is what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional public comment?
If there's anybody else online, please use the raise hand function and we can recognize you.
Last call for public comment on ZO03-25. All right, we are then back to the commission for any final questions or comments.
I'm sorry, there was one person who joined here at the last second. It's up to you if you would like to allow comment.
Yeah, we'll allow it. Let's just please state your name for the record, and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Wendy, you should be able to speak now.
Okay, I apologize. I just now got connected. And are you talking about the single occupancy right now or something else?
Yes, this is public comment on ZO03-25, which is the amendment regarding single room occupancy.
Okay, I simply want to reiterate what I said last time. Yeah. Is I just hope we are not increasing density for rentals of students, and I would like to see the core neighborhoods preserved. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. All right. I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm putting his shoes on you told me to put on. And I'm agreeing with you, it was a good idea.
Let's, can we mute that user?
That was, she said Wendy, right?
Wendy Bernstein, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we are back to the commission now for any final discussion or for a motion.
Okay. I'm going to leave it on so they think I'm watching.
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, Commissioner Kinsey. If you just sit tight, I think we're
Yeah, go ahead, Jillian, you should be able to speak
Zoom
now.
issues here.
Hi, Eric, were you unmuting me intentionally? It's Jillian.
No, I'm so sorry. I was trying to do something else.
Go ahead, Jillian, did you have a comment?
Oh, no. I'm afraid we may have lost transmission all of a sudden.
We can hear you.
I can't hear you. Okay, and I'm saying from others they can't hear.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead, Jillian. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, I hope we are able to mute the other participants. My question is about addressing Anna Killian Hansen's question about bedroom. And, you know, I'm as someone who certainly knows a lot about this, meaning Anna Killian Hansen, I would like to avoid any problems with language and assuring proper egress out of bedrooms, if that's appropriate. And I wonder if we could get Eric and staff to weigh in again on that to see if we may have, as I looked through the rest of the packet, I see bedrooms specified in lots of places in both the use table and other places, and just want to make sure we aren't making an error here.
I believe that was directed at staff.
Yeah, certainly. If somebody would like to make a condition of approval on this, that specific reference in the use-specific standards changes the word room to bedroom, that would certainly be appropriate. Staff doesn't have any problems with that.
Okay.
Jillian, would you?
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, I had one other question, if I can do it while I still have, and this is perhaps just restating something again. These are still conditional use. It's still as a conditional use, SRO as a conditional use within those residential districts.
Yes, correct. It is a conditional use, and so we are proposing a lot of the same language that was implemented with the duplexes, in that there are only 15 that are allowed per year, that you have a 150-foot buffer that is required around each one once it's done, and that the petitioner that is coming forward for the conditional use does not have any notices of violation within the past 3 years.
Thank you for reiterating that. I just think it's important. We sometimes repeat things that are in the table, for a petition like this that's been tabled and continued, I should say. But I just want to make sure that those things, that people hear that those things are still true, that the use table still indicates conditional use for this, and just to make that clarification, thank you. I don't think I have any other questions. Thank you.
I apologize, I want to correct just one thing. The language about the 15 per year is not actually in what we're proposing right now. I wanted to correct that. Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Stossberg.
Since Director Killian Hansen's online, hopefully she's still there, one of the commenters expressed some concern about regulating owner occupancy and in general regulating occupancy of these, and that is a hand issue, I think, at least in terms of making sure that they are not over-occupied. Has Hand expressed any concern with being able to regulate and enforce regulations related to occupancy and safety and that kind of thing with this regard? And if you're not sure if Ms. Killian Hansen was able to, if she was still here, able to answer that, that would be great.
Yep, she is certainly still online, so I don't want to speak for her directly. Anna, if you want to address that.
Hi. So the only time that we are going to be able to enforce that is when we are actually inspecting the units, which could be on a 3, 4, or 5 year cycle. So we are not going to be able to police this regularly unless it's during a cycle inspection or complaint inspection, and we don't necessarily, how do I put this? This is actually under the purview of the planning department. This is part of Title 20, not part of Title 16. It's just that when we're inspecting, we can observe whether something is overoccupied or not. It's going to be up to the planning department to enforce the occupancy.
So as a follow-up to that, I mean, inspections are on a 3, 4, or 5 year schedule. So that means in theory, there could be lots of places overoccupied right now, and you would not know it because it's between cycles. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. There are many times that we are alerted to a potential overoccupancy due to parking issues. So we may have more vehicles on site than what we would typically have, and neighbors might be complaining, or an abundance of trash or something like that that might tip us off. While our neighborhood compliance officers are out in the field patrolling their neighborhoods, they may observe something, and then we contact the planning department about enforcement if we do see something that is overoccupied. So just to say that this is not something that we're going to be able to police regularly.
But you would be able to police this as well as the current definition of family with no more than 3 unrelated adults, or 5, depending on the zoning district, or like anything else that gets regulated, this is going to be able to be regulated as all of those other things.
Right, it's not going to be any different than what our current practice is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Occupancy, it says that is one place that I think needs to be well-defined. So now we have a residential building where individuals rent an individual bedrooms. And when you call bedrooms, we know that there has to be egress, there's to be a closet, and all that. So I am in agreement that the definition of bedroom should go everywhere possible. So it's completely clear and no doubt, no room for error.
Would you like to propose an amendment as such?
Yes, I propose an amendment that on the definition of single-room occupancy on page 36 of our packet, it reads, a residential building where individuals rent individual bedrooms.
Would you also like to include in that amendment that we change the item A under the use-specific standards to say maximum of 3 bedrooms are allowed? There's another use of the word
Correct.
rooms there.
Yes, anywhere where it applies. as a
And then
word.
again, in C, a maximum of 2 adults per bedroom are allowed?
Correct.
Second.
Just want to make sure we've got them all. Are there any other places where the word room?
And B as well, it says no room, so it should be no bedroom.
Okay, so we've got 4 places, right? In A, maximum of 3, oh, I'm sorry, 2 places in A, right? 3 bedrooms are allowed. All other districts shall not have a maximum number of bedrooms. Under B, no bedroom occupied by a person. And in C, a maximum of 2 adults per bedroom are allowed. And then in the definition as well, we'll
Yes.
change room to bedroom.
Correct.
I think there's one more in A. All other districts shall not have a maximum number of bedrooms.
Yeah, I just said that one. Yep. So I think total of 1, 2,
1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah, total of 4 places where we're changing room to bedroom.
6.
6.
6 places.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 in the definition. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Total of 6. So total of 4 in the use-specific standards, right? And then
5.
How about,
3 in A, 1 in B, and 1 in C is 5.
so in the table as well, when it says single-room occupancy,
I see. Yes, sorry.
you know, it says guest room.
That was the amendment that Commissioner Seaboard made previously. So
Yes.
that was already
That's already
supposed to have been fixed.
All right, so
Okay.
thank you for correcting me there. So there are, yes, 3 in A, 1 in B, 1 in C, 2 in the definition, for a total of 6.
There's only 1 in the definition.
Sorry.
Yeah, just 1.
There's 1 in the definition, yes. The total of 6, right?
Correct.
All right. Just confirm, Commissioner Burrell,
Yes,
that is
I
your
confirm.
proposed amendment?
Yes, it is my proposal.
Is there a second for that amendment?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that amendment? Commissioner Seaboard.
Question about like a single-family home that might, from like a real estate perspective, have 4 bedrooms, maybe is functionally used as an office, but should it be bedrooms where people sleep, or is it obvious, like,
Yeah, so that would kind of go back to your similar question where I mentioned if we encountered that situation, we would do a zoning commitment that says whatever that room is that is not labeled or identified as a bedroom would not be used as a bedroom or sleeping area to help enforcement.
Okay, so staff's not concerned with just keeping it bedroom, it'll be,
No.
okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Is there any public comment on the amendment to change the word room to bedroom in these 6 locations? All right.
I'm not seeing anything online.
All right. Seeing none, we are back to the commission. Let's call the roll on the amendment.
Whistler?
Yes.
Burrell?
Yes.
Seaboard?
Yes.
Korodke?
Yes.
Holmes?
Yes.
Kinsey?
Yes.
Stossberg?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We are then back to the petition. Any final questions or comments or a motion on the petition? Commissioner Stossberg.
I intend to recommend this to council positively tonight if that motion is so made. With regard to kind of trying to ensure that there's affordability in this, I salute that concept, but like we can't really do that. We can't regulate that. The state of Indiana doesn't let us. So we just have to do everything that we can to encourage that. And yeah. In terms of regulation, I just want to reiterate, as Director Killian Hansen mentioned, that this new use is not going to pose additional onus on regulation. It just simply adds another thing to regulate. And I'm not concerned, if she's not concerned about Han's capacity to do that. And I guess I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I appreciate that there's been a lot of concern from public comment in these last few hearings, especially with regard to how this might over-occupy students specifically. Students need places to live too, and it really sounds like a lot of student hate that ends up coming out of the community, and that's really disturbing, I guess. Students need places to live, and students, if we can't tell students where they can and cannot live, they need to find some place to live. And we have low-income students. We have unhoused students. We have couch surfing students because they cannot afford rent. I don't think that we want that. And I appreciate that you know, and I was actually handling some complaints this weekend related to students' use of property and trash around their residence and it not looking or being treated well. And that is a separate issue to regulate. Noise, trash, general disturbance, that is separate. And that could happen whether you have student neighbors or whether you have senior neighbors or whether you have, you know, any old neighbors, because people are people and sometimes they are not going to behave as the way that we wish that everybody would. So I just wish that we could manage to not target students so much with housing changes in the way that it's been done through this entire SRO thing. Lastly, I want to say, and I'm not going to do any kind of amendments or discussion about it tonight, I guess this is a heads up to planning. I have some concerns about having no maximum number of rooms, especially in the RM and the RH, given the proximity of those zoning districts to R3s. And there are several other housing options in those areas that do add greater density. So that is something that I do want to pursue at the council level in terms of an amendment, but especially because we need to forward this to council tonight based on the timeline. I don't want to get into it here, but I'm just kind of giving a heads up that I think that that is maybe a flaw in that for those two particular zoning districts because of their proximity and the other things that are already allowed there that might end up being better options in some of those areas, depending on how big you want to go in terms of maximum number of rooms. So anyway, those are my comments tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Kinsey.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate all the work that has gone into trying to make this amendment help increase housing options and diversify housing options. That is the goal here. And I think the more we can help people get elder care in their homes, diversify the housing types, and bring it closer to the main, all of the housing options, make more of the housing options accessible is important to do for our community. I understand all of the commenters' concerns about neighborliness and what this might inspire. And I'm not a fan, of course, and I don't support bad neighbors, and I also don't support the outrageous rents that are being charged, and people are able to get them. But I think what this is, the intent is to really open up housing, and I'm persuaded by Commissioner Piedmont Smith's concern about allowing two people to live in a single room, and that this proposal does support some environmental concerns that are expressed in the comp plan and the goals for diverse housing options. All of that's really important. I know that it's flawed. I realize that, but I think we definitely need to move this forward to get some action within the city council. Perhaps there might be some other additions or ways to make this work better. But I'm also, again, I feel better that we have some safeguards in place. I know conditional use is sometimes perceived as being onerous for a homeowner or for a property owner to negotiate, but it's a way to put some more safeguards and to assure that the community is made aware of the property's change and the use of a single room occupancy in that particular residence. So I think we've got sufficient safeguards in place to work through this on a case-by-case basis that the conditional use permits. So I would like to support this and move it forward to the council tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Burrow.
Condition of 15 petitions a year, that was taken off the table?
No, I apologize. It was not part of the petition. I thought it was included in previous versions, but that was not. Okay. Certainly, if the Planning Commission would like to add that, that can be included.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Well, I just want to, I'll make a couple comments. I want to, first of all, second what Commissioner Strasburg's comments about students. I've been working in land use in this town for almost 20 years, and it's one thing that never seems to go away is that every discussion we have that is going to do anything to increase availability of housing immediately turns to how terrible it is that we might allow more students here. And I'm so tired of it. I could not be more tired of it. We make laws to try to create the best environment for citizens of Bloomington, period, right? Not for students, not for seniors, not for somebody, you know, the amount of time that you've lived in this town makes no difference, right? If you live here, you are a Bloomingtonian, and you're welcome here. That's it, end of story. And I'm not going to vote for anything or against anything because I think it's going to allow more students or prohibit more students, right? That shouldn't even be part of the discussion. Whether or not someone is enrolled in classes should have no bearing whatsoever on where they can live. And I will not ever support anything that is based on that kind of discrimination. Frankly, it's disgusting to me. In terms of policy here, I think generally this is a step in the right direction, right? If we want more affordability, you have to have more density. Also, hard stop, right? You're not going to get things to be cheaper by making it harder to build and by having fewer units or having fewer people in each unit. Those are all things that are going to make it more expensive. And I also think the idea of 2 people per bedroom, yes, it's going to create more occupancy, but without it, you are inherently discriminating against anyone who is married, right? That's not okay. That's not okay, period. We have to allow that. It shouldn't even be up for discussion. So I like where this is generally. A few things I don't like. I think we're still creating a little bit too many hoops to jump through. And I particularly have a problem with the idea of this buffer. And we've done this other places, but I have a problem with the idea that my rights as a property owner change based on if my neighbor beats me in the race to get approved for something. And I think it also, just practically speaking, is a little bit misguided. There are probably neighborhoods and there are probably streets where this type of housing is more appropriate. And to say, well, we can only have one on this street because whoever got there first sets the buffer, I think is a little bit misguided. And I think it necessarily sort of forces this stuff to occur, in places where it may or may not be like the most appropriate. If there's a place where it's appropriate to have 3 or 4 rooming houses on a street, why wouldn't we allow it to be there, right? Why is it that only the first one to get there can do it? I think that's misguided, and I wish that we would stop doing that. And I understand why we're doing it, right? We're trying to assuage the fears of people who think that this type of housing is going to, cause a mad rush of students into their neighborhood, right? I mean, it is exactly that discrimination that is causing us to put this type of restriction in the legislation. And I just don't like it. I just think it's misguided, and I think it's political. I think it's designed to try to, not to advance the goal, but just to make it a little bit more palatable to people who don't care about the goal of this legislation as far as it affects the whole city, right? That's our job. Our job is not to look at what is this going to do to my neighborhood, right? It's to look at what does our city need? What does our city need in terms of creating a land use policy that's going to promote affordability, right? And so I really am just not in favor of creating these sorts of buffers. Certainly, zoning and having zones, there are places where it's going to be more appropriate. I think that's fine. But to just say because your neighbor got there first, you can't do it, I really have a problem with that. So I do want to move this along to the council, and I'm happy to support a motion to do so. And
could I make one comment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Affordability, you have to have more supply. You don't necessarily have to have more density everywhere. You have to have more density at least somewhere. I think Bloomington should have a diversity of neighborhoods and types of places to live, including single-family neighborhoods. People like those kinds of neighborhoods. You can increase density in some places and increase supply without increasing density everywhere. I think increasing density everywhere reduces the diversity of the types of neighborhoods Bloomington has. So, thank you.
Thank you.
To be sure, when we do, that it covers this, what I'm calling the Seymour Amendment from last meeting. We changed facility to residence in the definition. We changed rooms to bedrooms, 6 places in the definition and in the first section. And then is that all?
I think that's right. Yep. So I think the appropriate motion here would be to forward ZO 03-25 as amended to the council.
Okay.
Someone like to make such a motion?
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to forward to council with a positive recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any final discussion? All right, let's call the roll on the...
Just to clarify, that was a motion to forward to council as amended.
As amended with a positive recommendation.
Right, thank you.
Correct?
Correct.
Yes. All right, let's call the roll on the motion.
Burrell,
Yes.
Seaboard,
Yes.
Korodke,
Yes.
Holmes,
No.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Stossberg,
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes. All right, motion carries. That is our final petition for the evening. Are there any final announcements or anything before we adjourn? All right, thank you all for your time. We're adjourned.